Hello and welcome back to another Knights of Lorcana League match. Today we've got myself versus Vamos Cosmos. This match was organized on the Knights of Lorcana Discord. This is just a place for people to collaborate, learn, improve at the game of Disney Lorcana. If it's something you're curious about, both competitively and casually, feel free to join. There will be a link in the description. We're always looking for new players to teach and new competitors to test with, so would definitely love to see some new faces around there. We got the shuffles done, mulligans complete. I won the dice rolls, and I will be leading off with a Captain Hook. I like to lead off with a hook, ideally, game one, just when I don't know what my opponent is playing. It's a very safe, easy card to get some value out of. We do see Akita go in the Inkwell, so I know that my opponent is playing blue now, which does not always feel good for me, especially when I'm playing a mid-range deck like Purple Steel. Playing into these control matchups can be a little bit difficult. I do get a Calhoun down, turn 2, and then I quest with the hook, realizing I'm going to have to go fast very early if I want to take this game. I can't give Vamos a chance to establish a board and a chance to establish any kind of threats versus my stuff while I have low lore totals. We do see that Vamos did not find a Tipo or a Sail, so that might pose something of an issue, missing his turn 2 ramp. I do apologize, the card previews are experiencing some technical difficulties, so we might be a little bit late on some of the previews. But yeah, no Tipo, no Sail. We see a Vision of the Future coming down. So digging a little bit, hopefully for some ramp next turn. But when I see my opponent missing their ramp, that puts a smile on my face because they will not be going as quickly as possible. So I do go ahead and play a Tinkerbell, and then I quest with both my characters, establishing some early pressure. I did end up switching to a more aggressive variant of Purple Steel because of all the control decks I've been playing against, including Tinkerbell and including Timothy Q. Mouse, who quests for 2 with an evasive character on the board. We do get a hard cast Mother Knows Best onto the Tinkerbell, not letting me quest with her outright, but we go ahead and just slam the Genie on turn 4. So fill my hand slightly by Genie replacing a card, and now we have an even more aggressive quester coming out. I'm still turning both the hook and the Calhoun sideways every turn. Since Vamos does not have any characters established, there's no reason for me to not start gaining this lore as quickly as possible. We do see some ramp finally come down in the form of a Cinderella. So that's definitely needed for him. Still a bit of a slow turn, though, unfortunately. And I probably will still feel comfortable questing with my hook and with my Calhoun, just because if the Cinderella does choose to challenge out the hook, I will take the Cinderella out with my Calhoun and gain some lore. We'll see what kind of play I've got here on turn 5. Looking at possibly an Elsa or a 5-cost Hades. We do get the Elsa come down, though. We exert the Cinderella, and then we have Calhoun go into her for a 2-lore gain, and then I quest for 3 with the Genie and the Captain Hook. So already up to 10 lore here on turn 5 for me, which makes me feel pretty comfortable. I am susceptible to something like an Under the Sea right now, but as it stands, I'm feeling pretty good with where I'm at with my lore totals. So we do get, he plays 2 Malicious, Mean, and Scary hard cast from the hand. So we see what the hand was bricked up with a little bit with those Malicious, Mean, and Scary. That does end up taking down my Calhoun and my hook, which will slow me down slightly, but Genie is surviving and Elsa is still around for singing songs as well. We do end up playing that Tink that got bounced to hand previously. So getting some value out of her again, and then I quest for 3 once again, putting me up to 13. And I've got a fully evasive board here, which could be difficult for Vamos to answer. We do see another Cinderella come down. A little more ramp, a little more dig. Hopefully Vamos can find an answer here, because if not, I will just end up running away with this one. Currently, he is on a two-turn clock if he cannot answer anything on my board. We do get a Dumbo come down, which will allow me to get some draws from the Elsa and the other 2 evasives, although I most likely will want to quest with my 2 lower evasives. We do have the Tinkerbell sing a Strength of a Raging Fire onto the Cinderella. I don't know if that was the correct play. Might have been more prudent to go up to 18 there, so I'm within range for a Cobra. But wasn't really thinking about the threat, and yeah, we do get an Under the Sea, which cleans up almost my entire board. So definitely regretting singing that Strength of a Raging Fire as opposed to just questing with the Tink. We do get to draw a little bit with the Dumbo though, so we'll see if we can find any answers. We play down Iago, which will pop to any kind of action that the opponent has, but I think for targeted removal, the only things Vamos has is a Mother Knows Best or a You're Welcome. We do get a Hades come down, hitting the Dumbo, sending it to the Inkwell. Does hurt a bit, as I would like the draws more, but we do put down a cat as an answer, which will help with cleaning up this Hades if Vamos does decide to quest with it. I can just move the damage with the cat after challenging with the Iago. And then we get a Sail come from the side of Vamos. Again, apologies for the card previews not popping up right away. Having some technical difficulties with the preview software. It's not always updating when I'm selecting things. We do get a 7-cost Basil come down, which will slow me down even further. The opponent deciding what to bounce. I think the Iago was smart there. If he bounced the cat, I could have just challenged with the Iago and then played the cat and boosted it immediately. We do get a hook come down, and then we replay the Iago. And then I do quest 1 with the cat, putting me at 19, so perfectly within range to win the game here. Opponent looking for any kind of answer that might possibly come from this vision of the future. Not sure if there's anything really that he could play. Under the Sea will not clean up anything, can't play the Phillips. So yeah, Vamos does go ahead and scoop there. Pretty clean game 1. Unfortunate that he missed his ramp. Definitely did not help him with me trying to speed to 20. So yeah, we took game 1, and we will go on to the next one. Moving on to game 2. Vamos will be on the play now. Do see a turn 1 play, Clarabelle. I will have to be wary for shift lines now. And then I do ink a Lexington and lead out with an Olaf. Very useful card in this matchup, as we can get a lot of insurance against the Malicious Mean and Scary Philip combo. We do unfortunately see that Vamos once again misses the turn 2 ramp and has to go for a vision of the future. So very statistically unlikely that you're not going to see a Tipo or a Sail 2 games in a row in your first moles. Very unfortunate, but it is the name of the game sometimes when you're playing this style of deck. We do go ahead and ink a Hades and play the Timothy Q Mouse. This is a very fun card that a lot of people have been experimenting with. It's a set 9, and its effect says while you have a character with evasive in play, this character gets +1 lore, and his 1/4 stat line makes him difficult to challenge cleanly, and he can usually net 2 or 4 lore before he's taken out. So a nice aggressive card to play. You see a Tipo come out for Vamos on turn 3, so finally finds a bit of ramp. I do answer back with a Cheshire Cat, hoping to dissuade some challenges and maybe get a little bit more free lore with this Timmy. I do get a card count from Vamos here, which makes me fear the Clarabelle shift line. We do see he will go up to that critical 5 ink. And then we do get the shift a big Clarabelle here. So with that, he does sing an Under the Sea with the Tipo, which will send the Olaf and the Timmy to the bottom of my deck. I do decline to send the cat back to hand, as I think it would not benefit me very well. We do get the Genie come down. Always a nice card to find on turn 4. And then I just have to pass here, unfortunately, as the cat is pretty susceptible to a challenge from the Clarabelle. And at this point, I'm feeling like the game might already be out of my control. That early Under the Sea was pretty detrimental to what my plan was. I was hoping to be able to quest with that Timothy for 2 with the Genie on board, but we did just end up losing him. We also lost the Olaf, so now we have no insurance against the Malicious, Mean, and Scary combo. Do you see a 3-cost Philip come down? And then a brutal play. We get the hard cast Mother Knows Best on the Genie, I believe it was. And then Clarabelle goes ahead and sings You're Welcome, which will effectively put an extra 3 cards in my hand, allowing Vamos to draw even more off of this Clarabelle. He's emptied his hand to 1, and I've got a handful of 7 cards, which will allow him to draw 6. Pretty huge Clarabelle draw there, especially considering I now have an empty board and only 4 or 5 ink to play with. I'll have to assume that he did draw into the big Philip here, which does scare me quite a bit. I know I can't just play out my entire hand or else I risk it getting wiped. We do go ahead and ink the Strength of a Raging Fire here, since I feel like I'm not going to be able to build up the board presence needed to have it be effective anymore. And then now I've just got so many options in hand that I'm really trying to decide what's going to be the most effective and hopefully let me come back from this game state. We do have an Elsa come down. She does challenge out Tipo. Not the most impactful play, but at least was able to establish a character and was able to take 1 quester off the board, which ultimately does slow Vamos down a bit. Also leaves me not as open to getting hit with the Philip combo. Could possibly follow up with something like a Dumbo next turn and see if I can draw a bit more from this Elsa. Get a Sail come out from the side of Vamos. Whenever I see my opponent digging with cards like Sail or Vision, it kind of lets me know that they might not have what they need in hand currently. You see Akita go in the Inkwell. Her effect will let him see the top card of his deck. He gets to look. He gets to exert her. Look at the top 2 cards of his deck. Put one in the Inkwell face down and exerted, and the other one on top. So allows for a bit more filtering. You see a second Sail come down as well. So we'll be able to ink a couple of times this turn, 3 times total, I believe. Yeah. So then we get a Kita and a small Phillip into the Inkwell. And then finally, we have a Cinderella come down, which will be the 4th ink. So accelerating Vamos from 6 ink all the way up to 10, if I can count. So that is a huge swing in ink, and also Vamos was able to filter the hand a little bit. So I'm definitely afraid of what threats might be coming out. He can play anything he wants at this point. He could just sing Malicious, Mean, and Scary with any of his characters, and then just play the Phillip. And he also did a great job of emptying his hand, so got another big Clarabelle draw. And choosing the order of his end of turn effects, he does draw with Clarabelle first, and then does the ink draw with Cinderella. And even though the lore scores are tied up here 1-1, I definitely feel like this game is completely out of my control at this point. I do have a handful of cards, which is nice, so I might be able to play some answers, but the opponent also has a handful of cards, and I think the quality of cards in green-blue are much better when the inks are this high. We do have a Demona come down on my side. Don't have to worry too much about giving him cards because his hand is so full. My hand is very full as well, so really just wanted to get rid of the small Phillip. It was just one more quester I can get off the board. Elsa can trade with, or can challenge it and doesn't have to trade outright, so I don't have to worry as much about the Phillip combo. And again, just playing one big character here will hopefully de-incentivize Vamos from just going for the Malicious, Mean, and Scary Big Phillip combo. Maybe he would want to wait till I have like 3 or 4 characters established. Did you see another Vision come down? So digging even further into the deck, trying to find something else to disrupt my flow. Definitely not what I want to see. Not only has he been drawing a ton off of Clarabelle, but he has been digging a lot, and we do get the big, brutal Bend to My Will with, I think, 5 or 6 cards going into my discard. So I was holding back cards in my hand, trying to not overextend so I didn't get board wiped, but I do then get my hand wiped. So a very, very difficult catch-22 that this deck can put you in. We do top deck a Genie, which is a wonderful top deck. I quest for 3 here, try and put some lore pressure on, and did get to replace 1 card in hand with that Genie. So honestly, of all the things I could have grabbed off the top, that was probably one of the best. I think the only other really great card would have been maybe a Hades targeting the Clarabelle. We get another Vision of the Future coming down. So Vamos definitely not having to just deal with what he has in his hand. He has been able to dig through his deck and find whatever he needs specifically at that time. Very much in fear of a big Phillip coming down here. I do believe he would have the ink to play it. He's got 10 ink behind, could still ink for turn. So he's got 8 ink behind right now, but he could ink for turn, giving him the 9 to play the big Phillip. And yeah, we do see the Cinderella sing the malicious, mean, and scary. And then we get the Big Philip come down. I think that was a great time for Vamos to use it. I did have 5 lore represented on board, so I could have put on some big pressure there. We do come down with an Iago and then also a Calhoun. Not a terrible set of cards. Will stop the Cinderella from questing by having the Calhoun put some pressure on. And then we also have the Iago, who has the ability to challenge the Big Philip, could do some damage moving shenanigans maybe. Unfortunately, we do get the Big Basil come down onto the Iago, which forces him back to my hand. And then Vamos goes ahead and quests with the Clarabelle and the Philip going up to 8. And then I do go ahead and I only had 2 cards in hand. I play the Dumbo, don't have enough ink to play the Iago, and I know that if Vamos quests with the Basil, his ability whenever this character quests, chosen opponent discards a card at random, I would just lose the Iago from hand, so figure I might as well just ink him. I do get a bit of glare here, but yeah, it looks like there was another big Basil that came down and bounced the Dumbo back to my hand, and then the first Basil went ahead and quested and discarded my hand, so that Dumbo went straight into the banish pile. And then we do just top deck the Timothy Q Mouse, which is definitely not what I needed. I don't think there was much of anything I could have used to come back from that state with 2 Basils, the Big Philip, the Clarabelle. Opponent was questing for a ton. So that was a very, very good match from Vamos, or a good game from Vamos, rather. Was definitely able to control everything I was doing. Uh, very, very typical blue-green fashion. Had a bit of a slow start, but then I think quested for game when in, what was it, 2 turns with all of those big characters. Very good use of the Prince Philip combo when I had potential comeback potential on the board with that Genie, Demona, Elsa. So yeah, we're gonna shuffle up and go to a game 3. Moving on to game 3, we are shuffled up. At this point, I am really looking to possibly play an early Strength of a Raging Fire, try and take out this little Clarabelle to remove the shift line, one of my biggest priorities at this point. We do ink a Black Heron and play an Olaf to start. Very good starting character against this lineup, again for the insurance against the Philip combo. Also allows me to bounce something that has 3 cost or 3 strength or more if I do get hit with the Under the Sea. We do see little Clarabelle come out turn 1 for Vamos, so great turn 1 play. Gives him the threat of shifting that big Clarabelle once again and possibly seeing it Under the Sea. Definitely not what I want to see coming down. We get the Calhoun on turn 2. Opens me up a bit more to possible quests. But I do go ahead and just pass here with the Olaf. I want to maintain the character count here, just so I can sing a good Strength of a Raging Fire, or just hard cast a good Strength of a Raging Fire. Worst nightmare here would be possibly Vamos playing a Sail and then playing a second Clarabelle and killing my Olaf. Vamos does tell me that he actually top decked this Tipo, almost missed ramp for the 3rd game in a row, which would have been absolutely crazy. I think we talked about it at the end and said it was probably like a less than 5% chance for that happening. We do play a cat turn 3. Now we have a Strength Singer available. Vamos deciding what to ink here. I do believe that he played Sail, which will allow him to ramp twice, putting him up to 5 next turn. So we'll definitely have to watch out for the Clarabelle shift coming out here. And I do get my Singer removed with a Mother Knows Best hard cast. I do just hard cast the Strength of a Raging Fire here. Um, Definitely just wanted to remove that shift line. Don't want to have to deal with the big Clarabelle coming out here now that Vamos has 5 ink. And then I do ink that cat that got sent back to my hand and quest for 1. So not questing super aggressively yet on my side. Might want to think about going a bit faster here because at this point with 6 ink, Vamos is definitely in range to start really controlling my board. You see the second small Clarabelle come down and then immediate shift into big Clarabelle. So no ability to sing the Under the Sea because the characters just came into play, thankfully, but still will be something weighing heavily on my mind in the turns to come. And now here, I do take a little bit of time to decide what my next move is. I have a couple options in my hand, but my biggest fear is that the Under the Sea is in hand on the side of Vamos, but everything I have to play in hand is susceptible to the Under the Sea, so my choices are basically do nothing or play out and just tank the Under the Sea and then go from there. And I think I do end up deciding that it's better for me to call the bluff and just see if he has it, and if he does, then go from there. Yeah, I can tell that this is going to be a pretty big turning point in the match. If I do make the wrong call here and I get all the cards from my hand put to the bottom of my deck with the Under the Sea, then I know that I'm going to be in for a big uphill battle. We do get the Tinkerbell, ink a hook, and then we play the Timothy Q Mouse as well, so representing 4 lore from those 2 characters. But again, very susceptible to the Under the Sea. So really hoping that he does not have it in hand or does not draw it. So I can at least get 4 lore out of these characters before something happens. So we do get a hard cast Bend. Sends a Strength of a Raging Fire out of my hand. Only had 1 card in hand. And then he tells me that he did top deck this Under the Sea, which wipes my entire board except for the Calhoun. Pretty unfortunate, but it does happen. I did make a mistake and sent the cards to the discard instead of the under the deck. Definitely something that happens pretty regularly against Under the Sea. We do top deck a Captain Hook, so not very impactful. I do have no cards in hand at this point because of the Bend to my will. So really just, yeah, not looking good for me at this point already. We do get a Mother Knows Best hard cast and a quest with the or not a quest with the Clarabelle. Clarabelle actually goes and cleans up the Calhoun that was exerted. Do find a second Calhoun in from drawing, and then we play the Captain Hook that was bounced previously. So threatening the Clarabelle a bit now. She does have 3 damage on her, so she cannot just quest freely. We do get a hard cast You're Welcome on the Calhoun, though, which is very unfortunate. So at this point, I'm getting controlled very heavily. I'm definitely not feeling like I'm really in this match anymore. Shuffling pretty aggressively here, just trying to think about what's going on. And then Vamos, I think, does so he plays a improvise just for the draw. Figured he doesn't want to keep it in hand really. Does ink a Clarabelle and then passes. gets to draw 2, as I have 2 cards in hand from the You're Welcome. And then from the You're Welcome, I actually was able to find an Elsa, which is very, very huge. Let me exert the Clarabelle that was trying to stay upright and stay safe and take her down, which was very big for me. I will always take that hook trade. And then we find a genie as well. So the Big Philip did come down last turn, but no Malicious, Mean, and Scary sung with it. And now we have an Olaf down for a little bit of insurance, maybe protect the genie. So overall, with that Elsa swinging things into my favor and also having Vamos having inked the Clarabelle previously, I'm feeling pretty okay. Do get an improvise come down for another draw. Now at this point, I'm just thinking, what are my outs? What can I do? Really thinking about maybe finding a He Hurled His Thunderbolts or another Strength of a Raging Fire to threaten this Big Philip. But we do see he slams down a second Big Philip. No damaged characters in play for me, so no enter the board effect. But I will admit that I wasn't paying attention fully to what was happening on his side of the board. I still did just think he had the one Philip down. So I did overextend a bit here. I used the Dumbo effect with the Elsa, which I think was okay, but I do end up questing the genie here as well. And I do regret it as soon as I pass the turn because I realized that there is a second Philip on the board. I kind of had tunnel vision with the Elsa swing play. I was just thinking about everything that could happen. Yes, we ink and then we do another Dumbo with the genie. So yeah, I think I could have maybe kept the genie upright and threatened something like a Strength of a Raging Fire or Thunderbolt. But now both of my evasive characters are susceptible to the evasive Big Philip. We do see the opponent play out the rest of his hand. He just has the Little Philip and then also a Tipo available to play. And then here I'm asking, oh, like, did you play that Philip last turn? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, was not paying attention. So definitely pay attention to the cards that your opponents are putting on the board because they do, in fact, impact what you're going to do. So at this point, I'm feeling not super comfortable. Opponents representing 8 lore on the board right now. 9 lore, actually, excuse me. 3 each from the Big Philips, and then Little Philip and Tipo together questing for 3. So just thinking about my options, thinking what can I possibly do to threaten these Big Philips. Don't necessarily want to just use my Dumbo effect right away, as it will expose it to challenge from one of these Philips. And the Big Philip will not just be banished outright from that. Will survive with 5 damage on it. But we do have Vamos with no cards in hand, so if he's in top deck mode, it's definitely a position where I could possibly come back. So we do play the Iago, which is a great threat versus the Big Philip. And then also, for 3, we play a cat. So the damage moving and evasive challenging definitely gives Vamos some pause. Makes it so that he can't just freely quest out with his characters now. I've got a bit more threat on the board. I think here I'm deciding whether or not I want to quest with the Dumbo. But I do go ahead and pass. I don't want to give almost a free trade just for 1 lore. Don't have the ink to use the Dumbo effect. Do see a top deck sail. Gets to replace that with something. And then we see a Kita come down. Not the best card to see at this point in the match, but also not terrible, as her ability to filter the top two cards of your deck may prove to be crucial in finding some answers for my board, as it's getting a little bit wide. And at this point, Vamos can't feel very comfortable just questing, because I can just take out the big Phillips. I also do have a decent amount of ink behind, so we could play something like Elsa or Hades to threaten the big Phillips as well. We also have cards like Lexington to hopefully challenge and take big trades up without having to sacrifice the Iago. So I think here, Vamos is just kind of going through the lines in his head, thinking what would be the smartest thing to do, and he does decide just keep everything upright, keep it safe, see what he can possibly draw next turn, and just answer what I've got. Do have the big Hades come down, targeting one of the Phillips, and he lets me draw two. Very quick decision for him. He knows he needs those Phillips to stay on board. I do use a Dumbo effect with the Iago, digging for most likely one of my removal songs, Strength or Thunderbolts. Not able to move any damage with the Cheshire Cat right now, as I need 2 ink to do it. Dumbo does Sing Strength of a Raging Fire on one of the big Phillips, which is huge. Will open it up to being traded into by the other big Philip, but that Philip will have to live with 5 damage on it, which lets me clean it up easily with Iago. Or if Vamos does quest with any of his other characters, I could possibly just move some damage onto it. Do have the Kita exerting to use her effect, I believe. Yep. Do get the Kita effects. So Vamos going to look at the top 2, put one back, and ink one. And then 1 card still in hand for him. And it is just a little Clarabelle, so a bit unfortunate that the deck so thin on 1-drops does end up top decking the 1-drop there. Definitely not what he wants to see. Goes ahead and just quests with the Tipo, putting a little bit of pressure on. I think that's an okay quest. At this point, I do have quite a few options. Could just trade outright with this Iago into the Philip. Could also do something like challenging one of the smaller characters and then moving the damage to finish it off. I think I'm just thinking about how I can maximize the amount of characters that I'm going to remove here, while also keeping my board as up as possible. We do boost the cat, and we move 2 damage to Tipo to take it out. Hades sings the Strength of a Raging Fire on the Philip. And then Iago takes out the Kita. I think this is overall an okay play. Could have possibly done something like challenge with the cat or the Iago, and then moved the damage and maybe saved the strength. But this way I do have strength remaining on the Iago, or sorry, not strength, damage remaining on the Iago to possibly move a little bit more damage in following turns. And we did keep everything on my board. So overall, maybe not the most efficient way I could have taken out Vamos's board, but we did get the job done at least. You know what they say, hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I definitely think I could have done that a bit differently. But at this point, I've got a little bit of tunnel vision. I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm coming back from two big Phillips. Maybe I can actually win this. Do you say a visions come down, our vision of the future come down from Vamos? And then Vamos is asking just how many of my strength of a raging fire that have been used this game, and we do have all 4 strength in the discard, so no longer available. We do have a couple copies of Hurled Thunderbolts in this deck, though. And then we do see the third big Phillip come down. Absolutely big play here. Does get rid of the Iago that had damage on it. So at this point, I am actually very happy with how I cleared out the board. I didn't leave any extra damage on the Hades or the cat. If I had multiple damaged characters there, my board would have been taken down a lot further than just losing this Iago. So even though maybe I didn't take things out in the most efficient way, it did really end up working out for me. And then here, a little bit of metagame knowledge. I do have, if I remember correctly, I've got an Elsa in hand. I've also got a Timothy Q Mouse. I think a Rafiki and a Doc as well. So at this point, I'm thinking, do I ink this Elsa, go extremely wide, and then play the Doc and hopefully find something like a Thunderbolt to dissuade this Philip from challenging me? Um, or do I save the Elsa so I can exert the Philip and possibly kill it on a later turn if it does get a little bit of damage on it from breaking down my board? I'm really concerned about the Philip just taking out the Genie here outright. And not really worried about combo. Opponent is top decking, so I'm not super concerned about it under the sea right now. It's really just deciding, do I want to keep this Elsa in hand, or do I want to go ahead and just go for the Doc play now? We also do have the option of questing with Olaf with the Doc on the board, and then being able to bounce the Doc back to hand with the Olaf effect. So yeah, we do go ahead and throw the Elsa in the Inkwell. Rafiki and Doc come down, no cards in hand. We draw 2 with 3 behind. And we do find a Lexington, which is an excellent pickup with the Doc. Puts a ton of pressure on the Philip now, because if the Philip does go ahead and challenge my Genie, then the Lexington can take the trade easily. And then at this point, I do go ahead and just quest out for 5, putting myself to 15, trying to close the game out now before Vamos does draw into any good answers. We get a Sail come down. And then another Vision of the Future. So at this point, I'm a little bit worried, really hoping that he doesn't find a Under the Sea in this top 5, as that would devastate my board pretty heavily. Thankful that I did quest when I did, so hopefully if that Under the Sea does come, I'm still able to recover. But yeah, a little bit worried about the Vision of the Future here. And sitting at 12 ink, Vamos does have the 8 ink available to just play the Under the Sea outright, or could sing it with the Big Phillip. And unfortunately, we do see the Under the Sea after the big 4-character swing, which removes, yeah, save everything from going in the discard there. It removes 5 out of my 8 characters. And Vamos does want the Dock and the Genie going on the bottom. And then here I'm deciding if I want to bounce something back with the Olaf leaving play effect. Wondering if I bounce the cat to get the extra card that's under it, or do I bounce the Hades to get the draw 2 from it? We do decide to bounce the Hades, as I think that Vamos will definitely let me draw 2, and if he doesn't, then I do get to remove the big Philip. And then we see that we do lose a dock underneath the cat, which definitely could have been nice to play. We do top deck a Thunderbolt, which lets us clean up the big Philip very nicely. And then I've got just one card in hand, quested with Lexington up to 16. And at this point, Vamos is still just top decking. Does find a Donald, which might let him dig a little bit more in the later turns. So a little bit concerning to see that. Will be nice for me, though, as I could pick up some extra answers. Grabbing that bolt from the top was really huge, though. Definitely needed to take care of that Philip as soon as possible. And I think here Vamos just deciding save the little Philip. And then we quest for 2, and we do find the top deck Giant Cobra to seal the deal. So finally, the top deck gods smile upon me as well. Huge 4-lore swing at the end there. That's definitely what you want to see with the purple steel, is being able to just close out that game really nicely with the Cobra. So yeah, that was a crazy match. I had multiple moments where I felt like I was at a point where I could not come back. When I got hit with that first Under the Sea, when I got hit with the double Phillips and slightly overextending, and then also at that very end there when he hit that massive Under the Sea. Those were all times where I really felt, oh man, am I going to be able to come back from this? But I think we played very solidly. Uh, kept our options open, made some right plays, right calls with inking, and yeah, I was very happy to play this match with Vamos. Got me off of a huge losing streak to Green Blue, and he was a great player. We were talking about strategy mid game. He's very kind. Not a sore loser at all. He was very happy for me to get that win. He said it was a great game and he had a great time. So hoping to get more games against him, as he was a joy to play against. So yeah, we'll catch you guys for the next one. Make sure to check out the Discord link for Knights of Lorcana if you're interested in playing some matches like this. And we will see you guys for the next one.